Whoever is listening, guys, welcome back. My name is Grayson Mann, and this is the long overdue Man with a Plan podcast, episode 84. Episode 84, guys. As I always tell you, it's crazy. This is going to be a little bit of an interesting episode for sure. Today, I'm going to kind of update you guys on where in the world I've been, why I sound like this, and we're going to talk some NBA playoffs, the game sevens from yesterday, Boston and Milwaukee, and the Suns and Dallas, and kind of give my thoughts on those series and how I think the Western and Eastern Conference playoffs are going to go. I don't know how long this episode is going to be. It's going to really depend on how I feel. It's going to depend on how my voice carries. I can already feel it. It feels very stiff. Not feel it. I can already detect it and kind of hear it. It feels very sniffly. I'm probably going to sound very just sound gross. So I apologize in advance for that. It has been the longest unintentional break of the show in a long, long time. And I really do apologize for that. And excuse that. I just had to toss my phone so there's no notifications going on. But yes, the longest unintentional break of the show. I think the longest I went without an episode that was planned was about a week and a half. That's because I think I had an interview coming up and I wanted to save it for a special time. But yeah, so about Friday, I think about the finals week, we posted an interview with JEM Live, my boy Jackson. We talked about the NFL draft. So that's how long it's been. And I had this big plan. I was like, all right, I got the stuff with Clemson Sports that I'm doing. And then I'm going to be able to talk to you guys. We're going to do divisional breakdowns, start the summer off. We're going to go crazy. It's going to be insane. And you ever guys have that feeling that you're on your way back home, or you're on the way to do something, you're about to plan everything out, and as it's about to happen, you just get like a bad feeling. So on my way home, something just didn't feel right, and it was kind of weird. I was like really hot and cold. It was like kept going back and forth. So I was like, man, I don't know if it's my car or it's just like the car ride just kind of messing with me. Usually I'm with my brother and we take these cards together, because it's easier for two of us. We both go to Clemson back and forth. I don't mind the drive, and he's fun to be around to talk to. So I'm kind of on my own, and you really start to think, and you're like, man, what is going on here? And so it just felt really off and hot and cold. And so I just thought, man, maybe it's just my car AC. So I turned the heat up, I turned the heat down. I get home and I'm just like, oh, okay, I need to go lay down. Went to bed super early and woke up in the middle of the night and tested positive for COVID. I did one of those little home tests the next day. And so the first 4 or 5 days, I was dealing with that. And it was fever, ache, chills. It was all the things you get with COVID. And it was miserable. And the worst part about it is, and this is my room. So my bed is about over there. I can't really show you guys, but seeing where the setup has, we had set it up the night before because I was like, oh, I'm just fine. I'm just a little off. I just need to get a good night's sleep. And I did not. But with all that aside, and then it was a double whammy of COVID, and then I got a strep infection or something like that. It was really crazy. It was honestly the most grueling 10 days I've ever had with the sickness. It was a battle, and I'm just excited to finally be back and talk in front of a microphone and be talking in general. It was the most inactive I've been ever, and it was so strange. It was so surreal, but it made me appreciate that the show and the dedication and how we've been able to build something super special. So I know this is not the start I wanted this summer, but I know that everything's going to happen for a reason. I'm ready for things to take off again. I'm really excited. What to really expect for the future, I'm not really sure. I think we're going to try to do at least one episode a week, depending on how content goes. I think with the playoffs, we'll try to do some bonus stuff, especially when the champion arrives and the finals. Might be able to do some stuff with Clemson Sports. So there might be a couple interviews coming up. I got to reach out to some guys again and kind of get their thoughts post summer, because a lot of the guys were busy with finals and stuff. So I got to see where they're at. So I really got to make sure and I really do apologize again for the sound of my voice. If it's really snuffly, I'm hoping that'll fix itself in the next couple of days. But really looking forward to now getting into the real sports part of this podcast. More or less, this isn't really my entire life on the show. Don't want to get super personal. So I really want to start with the Suns. And so you have a picture in your mind of what Game 7 is supposed to be. And usually you think, okay, Game 7, what is the to-do list, basically? So it's tied 3-3. So the teams are pretty even. So you check that off. The teams are very familiar with each other. They've played each other 6 times at this point. So they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. There's a lot of familiarity. And so I was just coming off of the Celtics game and I finished dinner. And so I went up to take a shower. I was like, all right, if I miss the first quarter, that's fine. It'll be a really good game and I'll be able to finish it up. And I check on my phone. It's like 24-15. I'm like, oh, okay. Interesting. I didn't see that coming, but all right. I come downstairs and it's all of a sudden a 20-point game. And the thought process in my mind is, what is going on? So, what I took away from watching the game is not only is Luka Doncic one of the best players in the world, it is that the Suns looked physically and just mentally outclassed. It was one of the most humiliating games. If you were a Suns player, fan, management, you don't go into a game seven thinking, man, I'm going to put up 27 points in the first half. Luka had as many points in the first half as the Suns did. That is by far the most ridiculous stat line. And it seemed like in game five, when the Suns blew them out, that this series would be over in six, and that the Suns had total control. They were the more experienced team. They were the more prepared team. And I really like Dallas. And I almost thought, you know what, maybe they could do something if Luka gets going. And in a way, I was kind of right, but I didn't think he was enough. I think it had to be Dinwiddie, had to be Jalen Brunson, had to be Powell, someone that could contribute. Finney Smith, Reggie Bullock, some of those other guys need to really step up. And didn't think against a team like the Suns or the Warriors that it wouldn't I don't think it was going to happen. I didn't think it was capable of happening. So to see that the Mavericks went up by, it was almost like I feel like they were going to drop 50 a quarter. It felt like they were going for 200. It was insane. I was so shocked. I was so surprised. And I find it ironic, and we're talking about the Bucks in a second, that both finals teams, it seems like they ran out of juice in this final, like in both these game sevens. It seems like all the basketball they've played, it's finally kind of come together, and not in a good way, because we came together and we were able to do this, but it all came falling apart with them. Chris Paul, they just look tired, especially with Giannis, and we'll get into that in a second with the Boston series. But I find it very interesting. We get a new set of teams, which is always fascinating. No LeBron, no. Well, I mean, we have Golden State, but it's a completely different Golden State team. So it's really going to be exciting for that. There's not much to add to the blowout other than where the heck do they go from there. I think the Suns need a little bit more of juice. I think they're a little older, and I think that they missed their window significantly with Giannis taking the title from them last year. So we're going to really see how that goes. And I'm excited to see how the Mavericks play in the Western Conference Finals. What an opportunity to see. I think you're going to get more of an offensive series in the West, and you're going to get more of a defensive showdown in the East, but we'll talk about that. Whew, okay. So, Giannis Antetokounmpo. So you guys can see that he has caused a lot of stress on my end for the last couple of weeks. And I want to just go ahead and say, I don't think Giannis deserves a lot of blame for this series. The man was a freight train. He was an unstoppable force, and he just ended up beating, in the end, Boston was that immovable object in that last possible second. Giannis dominated this series in every way, shape, and form. He was the best player on the court for at least six out of the 7 games, maybe 5 out of the 7 due to Tatum's 46-point performance in game 6. But there was a lot of it was all Giannis. It was let him get his stuff, and let's see if Boston can figure some stuff out with maybe Drew Holiday. Don't let Bobby Portis get going. Don't let Grayson Allen or Brook Lopez get going. It just seemed like the Bucks finally ran out of juice. And the most unlikely of heroes in game 7, Grant freaking Williams took 18 shots from three-pointer, 18 three-point shots, scored a career high, I believe, 27 points, and they won convincingly. It was like this entire dogfight of a series that we witnessed. It didn't even happen. It felt like the NBA Finals every game. Every game had importance. Every game had a stake to it. After the Milwaukee win in game 5, I thought the series was over. I thought they go to Milwaukee, Boston would put up a fight, and this would be over. That they would go to the ECF and they'd have Chris Middleton with them. And so I think in game 6 and 7, when Boston really started to get going and they really started to figure it out, I think the importance of Middleton's absence, being able to create shots in the mid-range, being able to create shots in general, because Giannis, it really seemed like all he was doing was, okay, I know these guys can't really guard me. When I drive, I can get around them in the paint, and he can do that. But it's such a taxing effort, especially when you have to go back on the other end, play defense against a guy like Jason Tatum, who moves around the court, hits all these crazy, incredible shots, go up against guys like Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Peyton Pritchard, Grant Williams, who are all really unique in their own way and play a really specific amount of offense that really makes your defense commit. They drive to the paint, kick out, drive to the paint, kick out. They're really great at being able to space the ball, so it makes you on your toes defensively. So all that just built up and built up. And eventually you had to figure out, when is this breaking point going to happen with this Milwaukee Bucks team? And in that second half, those shots stopped falling in. The team got frustrated, and it was not less a collapse, but it was almost felt inevitable with a team like this running on so much steam. They just come off the finals championship. And that game in Boston, it makes me think if they had been able to keep that second seed and not sit out their players against Cleveland, is that juice and home court would that been enough like for the Bucks? It really makes you think that home court really mattered. The Garden was blowing up. It was insane. It was a lot of fun to watch. It just stinks because game 7, you build it up in your mind and you're hoping that it can be the best possible version of itself. And it ended up not being the case. It's usually okay, there's not a chance for a blowout. Both these teams, win or go home, this is gonna happen. Like one of my favorite basketball games ever. Cavs Warriors in 2016, game 7, the 3-1 comeback. You know the story. One of the most unbelievable games, a slugfest. It was fun to watch. Both teams figured each other out. It was just a matter of who wanted it more, who gave up the more, who had the more fantastic plays. It ended up being Cleveland. Kyrie Irving 3-point shot, LeBron James block. Just some of those memorable moments. Game 7, Philadelphia, Toronto. The play that decides it all, a 50-50 ball that tips in Toronto's favor with Kawhi Leonard. So it's just those game 7s that you build up in your head. And then you have these 2 duds. So it's kind of more or less. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed seeing Boston take the W, obviously. I'm really going to watch Mavericks basketball. I need to watch it more. I'm very excited to see how that matches up against Steph Curry. So, my predictions. I'm sorry this is a really discombobulated episode. Maybe it's shorter than usual. I'm still trying to get back to being 100%. So, I apologize for that, but I did want to put something out, especially if I could talk without pain. So, I hope it doesn't sound like it's just me snoring the entire time. I really don't. If it sounds like that, I might not put it out. But here are my Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals predictions. I think that Golden State and Boston will meet in the NBA Finals. I think both teams will win in 6. Um, to me, I think that Dallas will get a couple games of Luka magic, but I think they can put Draymond Green on him. They can put Wiggins. They can get a lot of size and length, and maybe catch him off rhythm a little bit. And maybe I think that they won't get lightning out of a bottle from Spencer Dinwiddie every single night. So I think Golden State in that sense is more complete, and they're going to be able to get something done. I think that this is a team that really wants to head back to the finals. They've gotten that appreciation. Something that Draymond Green said is that when you go to the finals 5 years in a row, you kind of lose that, oh, how special it is. So I think they've really retained that, and it feels like a team of old. But I do have a problem with Golden State, and this is where potentially I could see Dallas going in and Luka just on cloud 9. Is this Golden State team feels a little old? It feels like the Last Dance almost without a Michael Jordan like being able to be like, hey, every single night. Because you had the game 6 Clay, who's fantastic, but it feels like the Warriors are having to put a lot more effort in to be able to make these things happen. Like you saw the Memphis game in game 5 where they got completely obliterated. It was one of the weirdest games I've ever seen. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. But I think that Dallas is good, but it might not be enough. And for the East, I just don't know what it is about Miami. I can't wrap my head around it. I think they're a solid team, but I'm just like, every time I think about it, I go, why in the world is Miami in the Eastern Conference Finals? There are 2 teams that they've played a weak roster with Atlanta with Trae Young. They shut him down. Easy enough. And then this Philadelphia situation, a super dysfunctional Philadelphia team. And you can make the same excuses for Boston. Say, hey, they played a dysfunctional Brooklyn team, and then they played a Milwaukee team without Chris Middleton. So maybe I'm not looking at it the right way, but there's something about Miami, and maybe it's the hat that I'm wearing on my head, but I'm really curious to see how the matchup between Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum goes. And I think it's really going to be one, not for Boston shooting a bunch of threes, but I think it's going to be one when Robert Williams comes back and makes that difference and shuts down people like Bam Adebayo. And I think Boston has enough space to where they can kind of contain Tyler Hero, Max Strus for a couple of those games. You need to be able to keep those guys at bay and steal home court advantage. I think that it'll probably be 2-2 for the first 4 games. It'll kind of match how Milwaukee's series is going. But I think Boston's going to be able to make enough adjustments to be able to go to the finals. They have just a little bit more playmakers than Miami. I think Jaylen Brown's due for a couple good games. Jason Tatum, I think, is starting to get into a groove, and not having 4 days off is going to be important. They're literally playing tomorrow. They're going to be riding this high. Miami might be a little rusty, which is something that you could really bet on to be a nice evening out factor. And Kyle Lowry is not playing in game 1, so we'll see how that plays out too. A really key score for Miami not playing in their first game of the ECF when they need to be able to set the tone. That's very important. Okay, I hate for that whole discombobulation, but I hope you guys enjoyed it nonetheless. There's going to be more content on the way soon. I'm going to try to figure out who I'm going to bring on, who I'm going to talk to for this NBA playoffs. I might bring on a couple guests to talk about it. We'll see how it goes. I have a couple interviews lined up. I just got to talk to them. It's all about me getting those connections back. I've been kind of out of out of the network for a couple days, for about 10 days. So I'm really excited to get back into the swing of things. Hope you guys enjoyed. It'd mean a lot if you could like, comment, or subscribe, because this has been a long time coming, and I'm really excited to bring some stuff back out to you guys. Thank you as always for the support. Subscribe or write a 5-star review to let us know you enjoyed. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you guys as always. Stay safe and take care.